With the world literally at our fingertips, never before in history have we been so connected to information and entertainment. And with the emergence of new apps like TikTok, we're more connected with each other too. But with connection comes conflict. So it begs the question, are apps like TikTok doing more harm than good? Welcome to TikTok, the social network that's taken the world by storm. The app has become the place to be for sharing short form content around the world. From cooking tutorials to airport dance classes, dog haircuts, and more, TikTok's got you covered, whatever you're into. And as it learns more and more about you, the app delivers tailor made content to keep you scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. TikTok has become a linchpin of our modern digital world and the place to be for keeping your finger on the pulse of the latest news, trends, and culture. But lurking beyond the phone screen are real fears of what the app is doing to its users.
With the sort of algorithms, it's really easy for you to slip into like a feed that's just reminders of like your struggles and everything like that.
It's kind of like with any addiction, there's that sort of weaning off it kind of moment, and I don't think I've ever really got past that.
A startling high fraction of them exhibit what is known as problematic use, which means that they can't regulate their own usage of the product. It's kind of like cigarettes in that way.
Welcome back to the year 2000. It's just gone midnight. The crowds are out in their thousands, and fireworks across the world are being launched into the sky to celebrate the coming of a new millennium. Predictions of what the world would be like in the 21st century had been much overstated for most of the previous 100 years. There were no flying cars in the sky, robots in schools, or DeLorean time machines. But the future was here in other ways. And with it, a whole new digital world awaited. With the birth of the internet in 1993, followed by the emergence of more affordable personal computers at home in the early 2000s, more and more people were gaining access to a global network of information. The World Wide Web was a portal that anyone with a computer and the internet could access. Never before had so many people had so much information at their fingertips. The way the world communicated, connected, and shared information was slowly moving toward this new online digital world. And soon enough, platforms built specifically for socializing online emerged. From 1996 to 2004, hundreds of social networking sites were developed, giving people on the internet the chance to connect with millions around the world. Whether you wanted to catch up with old school friends, meet new people, or contact long-lost family members, developers of these platforms were offering multiple avenues to build online connections. It soon became a crowded market, with many social networking sites failing to gain any traction. Even the ones that did make it were soon wiped out after the launch of Facebook in 2004.
We're really just focused on our mission, just helping people share information. We believe really deeply that if people are sharing more, then the world will be a more open place.
Now seen as the cornerstone of social networking, Facebook quickly became the most popular platform to use. If you weren't on Facebook, you were missing out on a whole new segment of life. Following Facebook's ascent for the next decade, Instagram, Twitter, and Snapchat followed suit, emerging behind Facebook as three of the most popular social networks, each with its own distinct way of helping users socialize online. These platforms formed the backbone of the growing digital society, allowing users to communicate instantly with friends, family, and strangers across the world in unique ways. With the launch of the iPhone in 2007 and the first Android-powered phone in 2008, social networking platforms were given a new lease of life. Social media had been liberated from desktop apps and laptop computers, and now users had access to their favorite platforms whenever and wherever they were. By 2010, the influential power of these apps was realized, with nearly 1 billion people across the world having some form of social networking profile. Technological improvements, specifically powerful in-phone cameras, soon shifted the focus of these mobile apps from text-based messages to video and images. It was a chance to connect with others on a more personal, less superficial level, as users could now broadcast in real time. In just 10 years, the online landscape had improved and pivoted significantly towards apps over desktop sites, with Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram thriving in the mobile world. Soon enough, in 2012, a new video sharing app designed for the smartphone, Vine, was launched, hoping somehow to rival the behemoths of the social media world. It distinguished itself from other video sharing apps by limiting users to only recording and posting 6-second-long clips.
Vine is specifically for smartphone users. And if you're 15, 14, you've never really known a time when a phone couldn't go on the internet, because your first phone went on the internet straight away. So it's this generation's medium.
Nobody could have predicted an app that restricted users so heavily would become so popular. But to the surprise of many, Vine was, for some time, the most downloaded video sharing app on the market.
So how hard can this Vine business be? I've got 6 seconds to explain why I'm in Trafalgar Square. Okay, try again. I've got 6 seconds. I'm in Trafalgar Square. My name's Katie Razzle, and I'm here.
Katie, you're doing it all wrong. It's straightforward. I'm Ben, reporting you with Katie Razzle on Channel 4 News at Trafalgar Square for the UK Vine Meet. And that was in 5 seconds.
That's impressive.
By April 2013, just 3 months after launching, it topped Apple's free app chart. Vine had tapped into a market that nobody knew existed until now, one where short-form video content was beginning to take over the internet. This consistent drip feed of content in quick succession was now more popular than the long-form videos found on Facebook and YouTube. Not many apps could compete with the quantity and variety of content being produced by Vine. The power of short-form video was here for all to see, with Vine making thousands of people overnight sensations. From the Paul brothers to Shawn Mendes, the app became the catalyst for the influential careers of thousands of online artists and creatives.
With fame comes celebrity endorsements, and it seems many of these new stars are being targeted by brands and advertisers to promote their products, which could, in turn, make them a fortune.
But by 2016, the Vine bubble was beginning to burst. With no monetization or advertising options, creators made famous on the platform were turning their attention to other apps, ones that at least allowed them to make some money from their content. As Vine struggled to keep its place in the video sharing industry, a new app soon began to emerge from China, one that was also tapping into this newly found short-form market. Much like the rest of the world, China had been building its own vibrant digital ecosystem since the turn of the century. Online culture in China had, for the most part of the 21st century, been dictated by apps such as WeChat, QQ, and Sina Weibo. It wouldn't be until the release of Douyin, an app created by the Chinese technology company ByteDance, that the status quo in China would change. The app, launched in 2016, became an instant hit in Asia. It was, much like Vine, an app focused on sharing short-form video content around the world. With a focus on video, music, and individuality, Douyin took all the things people loved about Vine, but made it bigger and better. Gone were video length limits, and instead, users could create content up to 3 minutes long, opening up a whole new world of creativity. Videos now took up the whole screen rather than half, and the new user interface was sleek, clear, and easy to use. Importantly, content creators could also make money on Douyin thanks to their Creator Fund, a feature that Vine never had that ultimately led to its downfall. Within a year of Douyin's release, the app attracted 100 million users in China and Thailand. ByteDance now had an app that was taking over in Asia, but they wanted more. Their plan was to expand into the global app market with Douyin, but it had become clear that a new app name would be needed. So in 2018, ByteDance launched TikTok, their global version of Douyin. In the first half of the year, TikTok was downloaded over 104 million times on Apple's App Store. Soon after the release of TikTok, ByteDance bought Musical.ly, a lip-syncing app based in Shanghai that had taken the world by storm. With these two incredibly popular apps now under the ByteDance umbrella, the Beijing company made a decision that no one could see coming. To aid their global development of TikTok, ByteDance took Musical.ly off the App Store in August 2018, merging its best features into their flagship app. They stuck with the short, snappy name and soon relaunched TikTok. Although controversial at the time, their decision would ultimately pay off. By October, just 2 months after the relaunch, TikTok had become the most downloaded app in the US. With all the creative possibilities and addictiveness of Vine, the musical touch of Musical.ly, and a sleek, modern interface, TikTok was appealing to the masses. It was the place to be for finding out breaking news, hearing the latest tea on celebrities, laughing at the newest memes, and singing or dancing along to your favorite song. More importantly, it was driven by its users, who were all finding and sharing their own niches in the app, creating a space for learning about others, community building, and positive self-expression. TikTok had arrived, and with it, a new era of social networking and content creation had begun. When TikTok first launched, there was huge optimism about how much it would impact the online community. The gap in the market for short-form content following the demise of Vine had quickly been filled by TikTok as it slowly jumped up the App Store rankings. With a steady stream of new users being turned to the platform every month, more and more people were becoming immersed in all the content it had to offer. What began as an app for sharing dance challenges, lip sync battles, and of course cute videos of pets, soon pivoted as users and content creators began to leverage the app as a tool for education, activism, and community building. From sharing life hacks and DIY tutorials, to raising awareness about social issues and organizing grassroots movements, TikTok soon became a hub for diverse voices and perspectives. Grassroots movements like Sturdy Off in London, a dance company which aims to tackle crime by getting young people off the streets and into the dance studio, wouldn't have been possible without TikTok. Led by Jimmy Toppin and a group of dance influencers, the company relies on videos being shared on TikTok to generate income, virality, and awareness for its cause.
Just dancing on TikTok, just not thinking of anything to get bigger, just for fun. And then from, I'll say, around March this year, it's just blown up. I've just blown up. I'm on 45,000 followers on TikTok.
So what I get out of this is opportunities and just able to dance. I'm able to dance and express what I want to do realistically.
It's just about like meeting people as well, because you see people online and then everyone like meets here.
TikTok was becoming a hub for grassroots movements across the world, and they were appearing in all sorts of different forms. Many of them were political, leading to some, let's say, interesting moments in the run-up to the 2020 US presidential election. During this time, Trump had become well known for holding mass rallies across the country, where his most devoted supporters came out to cheer him on. And in the election year, a group of teenagers banded together to buy tickets for one of these rallies in Tulsa, Oklahoma. These teens weren't Republicans and had no intention of going to the rally. Instead, they wanted to ensure Trump supporters couldn't get tickets for themselves. To do this, numerous TikTokers posted videos encouraging their followers to register for tickets to deny spots from supporters of the president. They, in turn, recruited K-pop stans, fans of Korean pop music, a massive and active community on social media, to do the same. The rally was pitched as an oversubscribed event, with Trump campaign staffers claiming ticket registrations had reached over 1 million. But the final turnout came to a fraction of the venue's overall capacity. TikTok had been instrumental in the organization of a false registration drive. It's arguable that no other app could have generated as much interest in a movement like this. With millions of new people searching for and joining TikTok every month, the world was now more interconnected than ever. The platform was becoming a melting pot where a broad spectrum of people could finally feel confident enough to showcase their culture, interests, and talents. Away from the grassroots movements and political revolutions happening via the online platform, more low-key viral trends began to emerge. And at one time, even sea shanties were causing hysteria around the world, all thanks to TikTok. In the final week of 2020, Nathan Evans, a 26-year-old Scottish postman and aspiring musician, shared a video of himself on TikTok singing a sea shanty.
Never in a million years would I have expected it to go so viral and so crazy and reach how many people it has so far. It's absolutely mental. It's went further than I could ever imagine. So that's the dream, to one day be able to sing for people and put my music out there for everybody to listen to. Oh, we'll be alright. If the wind was in our sails, we'd be alright.
He wasn't expecting anything to happen, but the app seemed to have a way of literally turning anything into viral gold. If you haven't noticed by now, it was teens and young people who, for the most part, had been leading the change for these growing communities and movements on TikTok. Much of it was happening in schools, directly where TikTok was taking off at the quickest rate among students and, surprisingly, teachers too.
But you say just a friend, oh baby, you. Flying my white flag, my white flag. Happy birthday to you.
I know what you're thinking. TikTok in schools, on paper, sounds like a disaster. The thought of students constantly on their phones, not listening to their teachers, absorbed by the rolling, never-ending content, could never be a good thing. However, teachers across the world began to leverage the power of TikTok to embolden students and other teachers outside of the classroom. Dubbed TeachTok, this community on TikTok has enabled many educators to become micro-celebrities on the platform. From tips and tricks to help with learning and teaching, to day-in-the-life videos and comedy sketches, TeachTok is the place to be if you're a wannabe teacher or student struggling with school. And it wasn't just teachers getting in on the act of TeachTok. Students, too, unimpressed by the standard of teaching in schools, took to TikTok to help their peers engage with subjects like science and English literature.
I guess we're just making books more appealing to them, because at school, the teachers do the complete opposite of that, I think.
I've taken it as a task to visualise books, because you see them in their paper, it's not really anything you want to put your time and effort in. It looks like school. So showing people on TikTok what books are through photos, imagery, and music is really catchy.
TikTok became an essential tool for many in 2020, when the COVID-19 pandemic brought the world to a standstill. With everyone housebound, students were turning to these micro-celebrity teachers and peers on TikTok to help them transition from school to homeschool life. Take Mrs. Zabo, for instance, who came out of retirement as an elementary PE teacher to spread some positivity and keep the neighborhood active. For many young people, it was now more than just an entertainment app. It had become an essential tool for their education. However, as the suffocating grip of the pandemic continued to tighten, a dark side of TikTok was beginning to emerge, one that would go on to impact the lives of millions around the world.
I do think we should be concerned. This is a virus that we know nothing really about.
And you can see that very dramatic things are happening.
The most important thing now is that we prepare against a possible very significant expansion of coronavirus.
We are now very close to the time, probably within the next 10 to 14 days, when the modelling would imply we should move to a situation where we say everybody who has even minor respiratory tract infections or a fever should be self-isolating for 7 days afterwards.
The elderly population must be very, very careful. Smart action today will prevent the spread of the virus.
In March 2020, the global outbreak of coronavirus brought the world to a standstill. Towns and cities were left deserted, following guidance from governments to stay indoors. From Paris to New York City, only ghost towns remained. And as billions of people across the world were locked down, they turned to social media to keep in contact with loved ones. Being online soon became a fail-safe for people to maintain relationships, find out the latest breaking news, and access entertainment. Usage of all social media platforms rose during this time, but TikTok saw a significant increase in popularity. Across the UK and the USA, usage of the app grew, on average by 112% among 15 to 25-year-olds. Being forced to compress their lives into 4 corners of their home pushed teens and young adults onto the app to break away from the mundaneness of lockdown. TikTok was now the only place to keep your finger on the pulse of the most up-to-date news and cultural moments that were dominating the zeitgeist. The platform had emerged in previous years as a safe space where people could be their real selves, become part of a community, and learn about the world around them. There was no need to wear a social mask on TikTok. It was one of the only social media platforms where being authentic mattered. More and more people were now spending more and more time on the app, and soon it was becoming an essential part of life, especially for teens and young adults. But lurking beneath the lip-sync duets, the comedy sketches, and the dancing dogs, there was a serious problem emerging on TikTok. And that problem was addiction. Social media addiction wasn't a new concept when TikTok was launched. In fact, since the dawn of the internet, countless platforms had harbored problematic user tendencies.
What's so dangerous about having children under the age of 16, under the age of 18, using systems like Instagram is that Facebook's own research shows that a startlingly high fraction of them exhibit what is known as problematic use, which means that they can't regulate their own usage of the product. It's kind of like cigarettes in that way. And they know it's hurting their physical health, their schoolwork, or their employment.
If you're not careful, it can be quite a dangerous place. If you go in the wrong areas, you'll find some things that may personally not be suited to you.
You get to that place where it's really dark, as you said, and it's very not a nice place to be. I mean, these social media apps are designed to be very highly addictive.
Do you think you're addicted to social media, as a lot of young people are?
I think I probably am addicted to social media, unfortunately. I think it's kind of like with any addiction, there's that sort of like weaning off it kind of moment. And I don't think I've ever really got past that. I have definitely had moments where I've felt like I need to retreat.
TikTok was able to tap into users' addictive nature much more easily than any platform before it. And how does it do this so effectively? TikTok works by recommending tailor-made videos for you based on your use of the app. To do this, it utilizes its world-renowned algorithm. An algorithm is a list of rules that tells a computer program how to make certain decisions. In the case of TikTok, the types of videos you watch and the amount of time you spend on each video feed the algorithm with information that leads to an improved user experience. So if you find yourself watching, liking, and commenting on videos of cats, you'll start seeing even more cat videos as you scroll. The algorithm is its most valuable asset. It's designed to feed users content that keeps them on the app for as long as possible. Millions of new videos are posted on the app every day, so users will never run out of things to watch. Unlike other content sites like YouTube, where users choose what to watch, TikTok feeds you an endlessly scrolling stream of content. And as you watch more and more videos, you get better and better recommendations. And as you get better and better recommendations, you spend more and more time on the app. What feels like 5 minutes can sometimes be hours spent endlessly scrolling. It becomes a vicious cycle of content curated especially for you. Although the similarity may not be immediately evident, analysis of social media apps reveals that they are designed to function like slot machines. The swipe down feature required to refresh the For You feed on TikTok mirrors pulling a slot machine lever. While in the casino, you're rewarded with a big jackpot, on TikTok, you are rewarded with entertaining videos simulating the pattern of winning or losing on a slot machine. Users stay engaged with the app under the impression that the next video will be the best one yet. it's likely that the use of apps like TikTok is just as addictive as slot machines and can foster social media addiction, much like how slot machines contribute to gambling addiction. Like gambling addiction, there's an ongoing dopamine drop when using TikTok. Dopamine is a type of neurotransmitter. Your body makes it, and your nervous system uses it to send messages between nerve cells. Dopamine plays a role in how we feel pleasure. It's a big part of our unique human ability to think and plan. It helps us strive, focus, and find things interesting. On apps like TikTok, when you find a video you like, or if someone comments on or likes a video of yours, you experience a dopamine drop. The brain grows to desire this ongoing feeling, sometimes referred to as a dopamine addiction, causing people to continue turning to the platform. The risks of TikTok addiction include a shortened attention span, an increase in mental health conditions such as anxiety and depression, as well as recent indications of a functional tic-like disorder. But just what sort of data is TikTok collecting that is making us so addicted to its platform? How much information does it have on its users? And where is it getting all this data from? The answer may shock you. Like any other app on your smartphone, TikTok collects your personal data. While typical platforms focus on active user actions like likes, clicks, or follows, TikTok monitors a wider array of behaviors during video viewing. TikTok can gather information via cookies and other trackers when you arrive on the site, even if you aren't signed up. Once you've created an account, the social network collects data about your activities and preferences based on the videos you watch. TikTok knows the device you're using, your location, IP address, search history, the content of your messages, what you're viewing, and for how long. It also collects these device identifiers to track your interactions with advertisers. With all of these data points, TikTok infers factors such as your age range, gender, and interests based on the information it has about you. And in the US, TikTok also has access to some of your most personal data. All you have to do is read the privacy policy to find out. For US users, biometric identifiers and information are accessible to TikTok. With all this information available, the platform is able to build accurate profiles for all of its users. For TikTok, all of these data points are extremely valuable. They keep users engaged with content and allow the app to serve them with specific and tailored advertising. TikTok uses machine learning-based techniques to understand what you view and why. The goal is to keep you on the platform for as long as possible and collect more data about what you've watched. TikTok can tell if you find a video funny, if you're interested in sports or music, whether you're religious, into politics, or concerned about specific causes. It also knows if you've been feeling down lately. The algorithm can lead you into rabbit holes and towards potentially harmful content not vetted properly by moderators.
It's really easy for you to slip into like a feed that's just reminders of like your struggles and everything like that.
They just have the platforms to make the money. Like when you put in your age, for example, they should put like content like restrictions. For example, if they say like you're 14, they shouldn't give you like all this dark stuff.
Restrictions and things are really important because the way that
we've seen that it's affecting people it's not okay.
But just why should we be so concerned about the amount of data TikTok is collecting about us? What makes this so different to other social media platforms? TikTok's addictive nature begs the question of whether China are trying to get users addicted, and for what purpose. The more time a user spends on the app means TikTok can collect more data. And with much of that data being accessible to ByteDance employees in China, there are huge concerns over what that data is being used for. One concern that is rife amongst complainants is the spreading of misinformation on the app. TikTok's design, where future content is driven largely by past interactions with similar content, contributes to the rapid spread of misinformation. Users who engage with misleading content are more likely to be shown similar videos, creating an echo chamber where misinformation flourishes. The spread of misinformation is a tactic used by the Chinese government to cause chaos around the world. It creates more domestic problems for countries they oppose, often leading to pro-China arguments being placed front and center across social media. TikTok is just one tool they use, and because of the number of Americans using the app, it's one of the best ways to feed their narrative into the West. The data they're collecting, coupled with the misinformation they're providing, becomes a feedback loop for the Chinese government via ByteDance. They know who is most susceptible to believing their lies and target them with more and more videos. Because of this, TikTok has been under fire in the US for years while raising questions about data access laws. Those concerns led the US House of Representatives to pass legislation on March 13, 2024, requiring ByteDance to sell off the social media app within 6 months or be banned from US stores and websites. The ban would force Apple and Google to remove TikTok from their app stores, and service providers could not make it available on browsers in the United States.
Today, the CCP's laws require Chinese companies like ByteDance to spy on their behalf. That means any Chinese company must grant the CCP access and manipulation capabilities as a design feature. Right now, ByteDance is under investigation by the DOJ for surveilling American journalists, both digital activity and physical movements through TikTok. We also know that many of your employees still report directly to Beijing. Internal recordings reveal there is a backdoor for China to access user data across the platform. Your employees said, quote, "Everything is seen in China." A gateway to spy is not the only way TikTok and ByteDance can do the bidding of the CCP. TikTok has helped erase events and people China wants the world to forget. It's even censored an American teenager who exposed CCP's genocide and torture of Uyghur Muslims.
For Feroza Aziz, the full power of TikTok censorship was felt after she posted a viral clip raising awareness about the plight of Uyghur Muslims in China. TikTok soon banned her from the platform. With her account suspended, there was widespread controversy, with many accusing TikTok of censoring political content. TikTok responded, clarifying that the suspension was not related to the political nature of the video, but rather to a previous video Feroza had posted that violated their policies on terrorism-related content. It raised the question of who was really in control of TikTok, and more importantly, who was really in control of the billions of different pieces of personal user data being collected. And when TikTok CEO Xiaozi Qiu was called to speak in front of Congress in 2023, bipartisan distrust of the platform was on full display.
I believe that without mitigation against bias, platforms will continue to replicate, exacerbate discrimination that is illegal under civil rights law, as well as exclude important dialogue about sensitive topics like race from occurring on the platform. For example, I was disturbed by reports that TikTok content moderation algorithm flagged words like Black or Black Lives Matter as inappropriate content.
Tell me the number of children, of U.S. children who have died because of these challenges.
TikTok is able to collect massive amounts of personal data. We all know that. And to be fair, all social media companies could do that. Here's the difference. It is only TikTok that is controlled by the Chinese Communist Party. All these other social media companies are not.
2 years ago, I became the CEO of TikTok. Today, we have more than 1 billion monthly active users around the world, including over 150 million in the United States. Our app is a place where people can be creative and curious, and where close to 5 million American businesses, mostly small businesses, go to find new customers and to fuel their growth. Now, as TikTok has grown, we've tried to learn the lessons of companies that have come before us, especially when it comes to the safety of teenagers. While the vast majority of people on TikTok are over 18, one of our fastest growing demographics are people over 35. We spent a lot of time adopting measures to protect teenagers. Many of those measures are firsts for the social media industry. We forbid direct messaging for people under 16, and we have a 16-minute watch time by default for those under 18. We have a suite of family pairing tools so that parents can participate in their teens' experience and make the choices that are right for their family. We want TikTok to be a place where teenagers can come to learn, which is why we recently launched a feed that exclusively features educational videos about STEM. STEM videos already have over 116 billion views on TikTok. And I think TikTok is inspiring a new generation to discover a passion for math and science.
Whether the Chinese Communist Party have any control over the app has been strictly refuted by TikTok. And even if it does, the app has become so embedded in our society that attempts to ban or at least restrict it were for some time seen as a near impossible challenge for policymakers across the world. With its increasing popularity among voters, passing legislation to stop users from accessing the app had the potential of being seen as political suicide. Outside of the congressional hearing, more positive voices and advocates for TikTok were staging their own rally. They were highlighting how important TikTok was for them, especially as a platform to empower and educate people. It was a far cry from the attacks going on inside the building behind them, highlighting the real problem, that there is no easy answer to the question of whether TikTok is good or bad.
Why the hysteria and the panic and the targeting of TikTok? As we know, Republicans in particular have been sounding the alarm, creating a red scare around China. Obviously, we want to talk about some of the addictive nature of these algorithms. Let's have a broader, more honest conversation about social media, and let's not scapegoat TikTok because they happen to be owned by a Chinese organization in this time of heightened xenophobia since COVID.
A ban on TikTok would be devastating to not only my community of parents and people that follow me, but also the millions of other communities that I know TikTok has helped develop, and the people who have found a safe place to express themselves through this platform.
But it wasn't until I downloaded TikTok in March of 2020 that my advocacy really took off, 11 years after I'd started doing disability advocacy work. TikTok has really been a game changer for me. It's allowed me to reach new audiences, millions of people, unlock new ways to generate income to support my advocacy, and empower an entire group of disability advocates to find their voice and build their careers.
So I'm here because I've seen this problem too often in Congress. This is now my 6th term here, where we have a real problem that exists. What's happening with social media in general, with data, with disinformation, with Russians being able to buy ads on platforms like Facebook. And that's what we should be addressing. But like I see happen all too often, that's not what we're doing. Instead, the debate has gone to whether or not we should ban a single platform, and it's getting lost on that rather than the very real issues that Congress should take on. But if we take that issue on, that means you're taking on also American companies. You're taking on lobbyists that these companies have. You're taking on some of the richest people in the country who make contributions to both Democrats and Republicans. So we're not addressing the actual problem, and instead the debate has gone to let's ban TikTok.
On Wednesday, April 24th, 2024, President Joe Biden signed the TikTok bill into law, officially starting the 270-day clock for ByteDance to sell the social media app or face a ban in American app stores. In a move that was bound to be unpopular with many voters, especially on the Democratic side of the aisle, it highlighted how dangerous the U.S. government viewed China and its ability to access personal data through the app. The U.S. isn't the first country to fully or partially ban TikTok. It joins a long list of countries around the world that have also seen the danger in the Chinese-owned app. These countries include Afghanistan, India, Iran, Kyrgyzstan, Nepal, and Somalia. Other regions such as Australia, Canada, the United Kingdom, and the European Union have partial bans, which stops devices issued by government agencies from accessing the app. So it's obvious that across the world, the dangers associated with TikTok and its close association with the Chinese Communist Party are well known. It begs the question as to why this ban didn't take place sooner and what impact the delay will have had. As time has gone on and more people have become addicted to the app, it's opened the door to more people siding with TikTok and ByteDance, seeing this ban as an attack on their freedom. It's up to the government to convey the message that the ban is necessary to protect American people, secure their personal data, and stop the spread of dangerous misinformation. TikTok has undoubtedly had a huge impact on people's lives, both positively and negatively. It's an app that allows users to be themselves, empower others, and share stories that would have gone unheard before. For the most part, it creates strong communities and has become the place to be for self-expression in a way that no other app has done before. But when you hear stories of users becoming addicted to the app, the spreading of misinformation, and the threat posed by China, it begs the question of whether a platform like this can ever be a healthy part of our lives. For now, all we can rely on is better rules, regulations, and education to help minimize the negative aspects of apps like TikTok and ensure that our personal data isn't being abused as a consequence. And hopefully, if TikTok finds a suitable buyer in the US, it can flourish as an app that helps build online communities in a safe and secure way. It's safe to say that, at least for a while, TikTok is here to stay. The app has become a linchpin of our society, helping users keep their fingers on the pulse of the latest cultural moments. From breaking news to celebrity gossip, comedy sketches, and memes. We can't deny that so much of our modern society revolves around social media platforms like TikTok. And if they're made and used in the right way, social media can enrich our lives and help us build vital connections and communities around the world. So who knows? Maybe in a few years, app developers will have come up with a new platform, one that's just as fun, engaging, and entertaining as TikTok, but has a much healthier impact on its users.